What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Today, I'll be taking a look at the interest for the 2024 Cookout 400 at Richmond as we come back from the 2-week Olympic break. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. We're going to start by talking about the one car for Trackhouse Racing. This course will be driven by Ross Chastain. Ross Chastain's coming off having a stretch of races that have not been good for him recently, and he's only 7 points above the cutoff line currently at the moment. And the short track program for Trackhouse recently has not been as fast. He's looking for a strong run this week, and historically he's not been great at Richmond. We'll see what Ross Chastain can do, and hopefully he can have a solid and good run this weekend at Richmond Raceway. Up next, how about the 2 car for Team Penske? This is once again be driven by Austin Cindric. Austin Cindric's had not the greatest season so far in 2024, despite the fact he did win a gateway earlier this year. He's only had, I believe, 3 or 4 top 10 finishes altogether. He is looking for a strong run this weekend in the number 2 car, looking to get some momentum, maybe get some stage points. We'll see what Austin Cindric can do in the 2 car this weekend at Richmond Raceway. Up next, how about the 3 car for Richard Childress Racing? This will once again be driven by Austin Dillon. 2024 for Austin Dillon has not been very good. The pace and speed has generally not been there for the 3 team, and they're looking for a strong run. Luckily, Austin Dillon has actually had some pretty good performances at Richmond, and this could be a track where everything kind of turns around. We'll see what Austin Dillon can do this weekend, and we'll see if Austin Dillon can have a solid and good performance this weekend at Richmond Raceway. Up next, how about the 4 car for Stu House Racing? This will once again be driven by Josh Berry. Josh Berry has been extremely strong at short tracks, not just in the Cup Series, but also the Xfinity Series as well. And he had really good pace and speed in the spring. This 4 team I expect to be good. They won it a couple years ago with Kevin Harvick in that 4. I think Josh Berry could have a really strong performance, and I think he's got a good chance and opportunity to maybe steal an upset and get his first career NASCAR Cup Series victory this weekend at Richmond Raceway. Up next, how about the 5 car for Hendrick Motorsports? This course be driven by Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson is coming off picking up his 4th win of the 2024 season a couple weekends ago at the Brisco 400. He's already had a big week as he already won the Ironman 55 and swept the weekend at Peevely in World of Outlaws, and he's looking for his 5th win of 2024. Kyle Larson's been pretty solid at Richmond. He's got a couple wins in his Cup Series career at that track, and I could see Kyle Larson have a great chance and opportunity to get his 3rd ever win at Richmond and his 5th win of 2024 this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the 6 car for RFK Racing? This will once again be driven by Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski's been hit or miss at Richmond in recent years, but we've seen RFK show the pace and speed. And in the summer race last year, Brad Keselowski had a great chance and opportunity to go to victory lane. I think Brad have a good chance and opportunity to win. The Fords have been a lot quicker in the second half of this regular season. He's been a little inconsistent, but I do think that Brad Keselowski will have a good shot and a good performance this weekend with RFK at Richmond. Up next, up the 7 car for Spire Motorsports. This will once again be driven by Cory Joy. During the off-week break, it was announced that Cory Joy would not be returned to Spire Motorsports in 2025. So he's looking to finish off this year with a really strong, good performances so they can have maybe some momentum as he looks for a new job going into 2025. He looks for a great run this weekend. We'll see what Cory Joy could do, though he's still looking for his first top 10 finish on a non-super speedway track in the NASCAR Cup Series. Up next, how about the 8 car for Richard Childress Racing? This will once again be driven by Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch really needed this break because he had struggled the last 8 races. In the last 8 points paying races, Kyle Busch had 5 DNF finishes. And the short track speed from the RCR cars has just not been there so far this year. He is looking for a great run this weekend at Richmond, really trying to turn a corner. He's been good at Richmond in the past, but the last couple years, he's kind of struggled there. So he's looking for a very solid and good performance this weekend at Richmond Raceway. Up next, up with the 9 car for Hendrick Motorsports. This will once again be driven by Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott is coming off of having a solid run at the Brisco 400 a couple weeks ago and is still looking for his first ever Cup Series win at Richmond as he won the Xfinity Series at this track back in 2015. I think Chase Elliott is going to have a good chance and opportunity. The short track program has been solid for the Hendrick Motorsports cars this year, and I could see Chase Elliott having a very solid and good performance this weekend at Richmond Raceway. Up next, our 10 car for Stu House Racing. This will once again be driven by Noah Grayson. Noah Grayson started off very, very strong, but has also been very inconsistent in the last 6 or 7 races. We do know Noah Grayson is going to a new organization going into next year and needs as much momentum and confidence as possible. I think of how fast 10 car has been, though, in the past, I could see Noah Grayson having a very strong and good performance this weekend at Richmond Raceway. Up next out the 11 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. This one once again be driven by Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin won the last turn here at Richmond Raceway back earlier this year, even though it was a very controversial win in victory. But Denny Hamlin has been pretty good at Richmond throughout his career, one of the winningest tracks he has in his NASCAR Cup career up to this point. I do expect Denny Hamlin is going to have a very solid performance. I think he's one of the favorites going to weekend. He might be my pick just because of how good he's been at this track. I think Denny Hamlin is going to have a really great opportunity to pick up his 4th win of 2024 this weekend at Richmond. Up next up with the 12th car for Team Penske. This will once again be driven by Ryan Blaney. During the summer stretch of this year, Ryan Blaney has looked extremely strong, and we've seen how good the short track program has been for Ryan Blaney as he won at Iowa earlier this year. I do think that Ryan Blaney is going to have a very strong and solid performance. I think the pace and speed is going to be there for them, and I think Team Penske is going to come off, especially with how good the short track program was in North Wilkesboro. I do think that Ryan Blaney have a good chance and opportunity to potentially pick up his 3rd win of the season this weekend at Richmond Raceway. Up next, up with the 14 car for Stu House Racing. This will once again be driven by Chase Brisco. Chase Brisco is looking for a very good performance this weekend at Richmond. His team has been a little inconsistent at times throughout the year, but we've also seen SHR just have some really great stand-up performances this season as well, with the 14 team having no exception. As the last technical short track race, he finished 2nd at New Hampshire. He is looking for a great run this weekend. I do think that Chase Brisco could have a strong and great performance this weekend at the Richmond Raceway. Up next, up with the 15 car for Reic Racing. This will once again be driven by Riley Herbst, who I believe will make his 4th or 5th NASCAR Cup start of 2024. In his Select Cup Series starts that Riley Herbst has had, he's had some decent runs, but not amazing runs. But I do think Riley Herbst, with how fast Reic Racing has been getting, I could see him having a very strong performance. We know he's really moving up to full-time to the Cup Series next year. Getting the experience this weekend at Richmond will help him. He'll be looking for a solid and strong and great performance this weekend at Richmond. Up next, up with the 16 car for Kaulig Racing. This will once again be driven by Todd Gillan, who I believe will make his 4th or 5th Cup Series start of 2024. Todd Gillan will also be doing double duty as he'll run the 25 truck for Rackley in the Truck Series. He's looking for a good run, though Kaulig Racing short track program has not been that great in recent years. He's looking for a great run this weekend, looking to get the turnaround started. We'll see what Todd Gillan can do in the number 16 car this weekend at Richmond Raceway. Up next, off the 17 car for RFK Racing. This will once again be driven by Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher is the defending winner of the summer race at Richmond Raceway, so he's got some experience here. In fact, he's the defending winner of the next 3 upcoming races. And I think Chris Buescher, with the speed he's shown at times this year, he could be one of the favorites going into the weekend. I expect the pace and speed to be there. I think he's going to have a good chance and opportunity as RFK continues to get a lot better throughout the rest of the season. Up next on the 19 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. This will once again be driven by Martin Truex Jr. Martin Truex Jr. still is looking for his 1st win in 2024, but he is one of the favorites going into this weekend as Martin Truex Jr. has been very, very fast at short tracks throughout the whole entire 2024 campaign. I do think Martin Truex Jr. will have a good chance and opportunity, though they have been struggling at times as well. I do think that Martin Truex Jr. will have a very solid, strong, and great performance this weekend at Richmond Raceway. Up next, I have the 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. This will once again be driven by Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell had a really strong summer before the break came around. He won in New Hampshire, and let's be honest, he probably should have won a few more races throughout this season. I think Christopher Bell's been really good this year. He's looking for his 1st championship. With the speed that JGR has shown on the short tracks this year, I think Christopher Bell has a really good chance and opportunity to get win number 4 of the year and potentially his 10th career NASCAR Cup Series victory this weekend at Richmond Raceway. Up next, I have the 21 car for the Wood Brothers. This will once again be driven by Harrison Burton. Harrison Burton has been decent at short tracks this year, but all around 2024 has been a complete disaster for Harrison Burton, with only 1 top 10 so far this season. I do think Harrison Burton could have a top 25 performance. I feel like they've been showing a little bit more speed before the break happened. They had some good qualifying performances especially, but they haven't really been showing it much in the race. He's looking to build momentum throughout the rest of 2024 and looking for some strong runs this weekend at Richmond. Up next, up with the 22 car for Team Penske. This will once again be driven by Joey Logano. Joey Logano almost won this race in the spring, finishing 2nd to Denny Hamlin. And Joey Logano, I feel like, has been at times fast this year, but has also been very inconsistent at times throughout this year. He is looking for a great run this week and looking for his 2nd win of the year, which would be, I think, his 34th or 35th career Cup Series victory if he gets it done. With the speed that Penske's been showing, I do think Joey Logano can have a solid run this weekend at Richmond Raceway. Up next, how about the 23 car for 23XI Racing? This one once again be driven by Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace, before the break, had been having an exceptional streak of races. He, of course, finished 7th in Nashville, finished 13th at Chicago, finished 10th at Pocono, and finished in 5th at the Brickyard 400. I think Bubba Wallace has a really good chance and opportunity to have a great run. Remember, in the spring race at Richmond, he had a good chance and opportunity to win that race, would have finished in the top 5 and not for pit road issues for that caution between him and Kyle Larson. I do think Bubba will also have a very strong, great performance, and I think he'll have a chance to continue building momentum he has currently at this moment. Up next, how about the 24 car for Hendrick Motorsports? This will once again be driven by William Byron. Now, William Byron, I believe, has never won here in the NASCAR Cup Series, but he's also had good chances and opportunities to win in this track in the past. And I feel like the 24 team may start really getting better after the summer break happens. I think William Byron is going to have a very solid run this weekend at Richmond. I think he's going to do really strong. I think the speed is going to be coming back for the 24 organization, and I do think William Byron will have a good chance and opportunity to get his 4th win of 2024 this weekend. Up next, up with the 31 car for Kaulig Racing. This one once again be driven by Daniel Hemric. Daniel Hemric has had an up and down year so far in 2024. While he's only got 3 top 10s so far, he's also had a ton of finishes outside of the top 20. We know that he's looking for a good run this weekend for sure, though I mentioned this with the 16 team. The 31 team has also struggled on short tracks throughout the year, so I'm not exactly sure if we're going to see Daniel Hemric have a fantastic, great run this weekend at Richmond. Up next, up with the 34 car for Front Row Motorsports. This will once again be driven by Michael McDowell. Michael McDowell has had a solid year so far at times, but he's actually behind his teammate Todd Gillan in the standings. He is looking for a great run this weekend at Richmond, though the short track speed at times has also not been there. Though I will say I remember last year in the spring where they actually finished inside the top 10. And I could definitely see Michael McDowell having a top 10 performance this weekend if the pace and speed can be there, especially with the Penske cars having helped them. We could see Michael McDowell do well this weekend. Up next, how about the 38 car for Front Row Motorsports? This will once again be driven by Todd Gillan. Todd Gillan has had a really great year so far in 2024 as he currently is sitting inside the top 20 in the regular season standings. And he's been a standout at times this year. He's had some great performances. He had a streak of like 9 or 10 races where he finished inside the top 20 consecutively. And I think that speed has been there for Todd Gillan. He's been the leader of the organization this year so far, and I expect that to continue as Todd Gillan looks to build up and become the leader with Michael McDowell leaving at the end of this season. Up next, how about the 41 car for Stu House Racing? This will once again be driven by Ryan Preece. Now, Ryan Preece has had a struggling year so far in 2024, but if there's a type of track that Ryan Preece can run well at, it's Richmond. With the modified experience he's had, I think that's going to play a major role. And I remember the race last year in the summer where he actually had a top 5 in top 10 car. I think Michael McDowell is going to do a really great job this weekend. I think he's going to be fast at times. And Ryan Preece, I think he'd do a really solid job. I think he's going to have a good chance to be up front. And we'll see what Ryan Preece can do in the 41 car this weekend, as I expect him to have some good pace or speed this weekend at Richmond. Up next, up with the 42 car for Legacy Motor Club. This course will be driven by John Hunter Nemechek. John Hunter Nemechek has had a very bad year overall so far. He is currently sitting shockingly 31st in the standings, and while he's had a top 10 or 2 top 10s and started off pretty good while he was competing for the playoffs early in the year, this 42 team has faded off throughout the rest of the regular season. He is looking for a great run this weekend at Richmond, though, to try to turn it around really quickly. We'll see what he can do. He has won here in the Xfinity Series in the past, if I remember correctly, and I think he won in the Truck Series 3 or 4 years ago, so it could lead to John Hunter having a good run this weekend for sure. Up next, up with the 43 car for Legacy Motor Club. This will once again be driven by Erik Jones. Erik Jones had a pretty disappointing year. While he did suffer an injury midway through the season, it's been a little bit of a struggle for Erik Jones outside of that, with only 1 top 10, I think that coming at Pocono right before the break. It's been a little inconsistent at times, hasn't had a lot of top 20 finishes. I think he's going to have a better second half of the year. We still got Darlington coming up, but I'm not sure if Erik Jones is going to have a strong or good run. We'll see what he can do this weekend at Richmond Raceway. Up next, up with the 45 car for 23XI Racing. This course will be driven by Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick has had a fantastic year so far. I believe in the last 5 or 6 races, he finished no worse than 5th or 6th. And Tyler Reddick actually has a realistic chance to win the regular season championship this year. In this race last year, he had one of the fastest cars on the racetrack. The Toyotas have come to play. I think Tyler Reddick could have a good run. I think he finished in the top 10 in the spring race. I think Tyler Reddick could have a really strong, great run this weekend with the 45 team at Richmond Raceway. Up next, up with the 47 car for JTG Daugherty Racing. This will once again be driven by Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has been very inconsistent this year and has definitely taken a step backwards in 2024 compared to last season. He is looking for a great run this weekend and trying to turn the corner. They have had some good top 15, top 20 runs, and they've moved up the points a little bit, but outside of that, it's been a little bit of a struggle for him this year. He is looking for a solid and strong run. We'll see what Ricky Stenhouse Jr. can do this weekend at Richmond Raceway in the 47 car. Up next, up with the 48 car for Hendrick Motorsports. This will once again be driven by Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman has had a very solid year so far. He picked up the win a couple weekends ago at the Chicago Street Course, and I feel like the 48 team has actually gotten stronger as the season has progressed. He nearly won a Pocono as well, and he's actually a former winner at this racetrack. So I do think that Alex Bowman could have a good run this weekend. He's looking to run up front, and I think that Alex Bowman will definitely be someone to watch out for this weekend when we go to Richmond Raceway to maybe get the win. Up next, up with the 51 car for Rickwer Racing. This will once again be driven by Justin Haley. Justin Haley has had a very, very solid year so far for the equipment he's in. He's currently in the top 30 in the standings right now. There's obviously been rumors going around recently he can move to a new organization, though he's expecting to stay in the 51 car. He is looking for a great run this weekend, looking to continue a really strong performances that he's had, and I do think Justin Haley could have a great run for sure this weekend with the 51 team at Richmond Raceway. Up next, how about the 54 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? This will once again be driven by Ty Gibbs. Now, Ty Gibbs has won here in the NASCAR Xfinity Series in the past, but it's been a little bit of a struggle at times for Ty Gibbs in recent weeks because of the engine issues and failures. Hopefully, during the off weeks and during the summer break, they've been able to figure out some of the engine issues they're having, because if they don't get it figured out, there is a chance that he might be shockingly not making the playoffs after a really strong start to 2024. He's looking for a great run. We'll see what Ty Gibbs can do this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the 6-6 car for MBM Motorsports? This team will make their 7th or 8th start of the season, and they're going to have Parker Ressett behind the wheel, who will make his NASCAR Cup Series debut this weekend in Richmond. The reason being is because they want him to get a little bit of experience on an oval before jumping him into a super speedway. I think Parker Ressett's very talented. He's actually qualified very well here in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. I definitely think Parker Ressett could be one to watch out for to at least make the car go a little bit faster. I don't think he's going to be contending by any stretch of imagination, but it's a great opportunity for Parker Ressett to get behind the wheel this weekend at Richmond. Up next, up with the 71 car for Spire Motorsports. This will once again be driven by Zayn Smith. Zayn Smith started you off really, really bad, but in the second half of the regular season, this 71 team has been starting to come on strong. The pace and speed has been there on a week-by-week basis, seems like. They've actually had a top 20 average finish the last 5 or 6 races, and I could definitely see Zayn Smith doing well once again. He didn't run well here in Richmond in the spring, but I do think with the speed and pace he's been showing as of late, I could see Zayn Smith having a good run this weekend at Richmond. Up next, how about the 77 car for Spire Motorsports? This will once again be driven by Carson Nosebar. Unlike Zayn Smith, Carson Nosebar's had a very good run this year. He's been one of the more impressive drivers, and remember, he actually won the Truck Series race, which he got a 2nd or 3rd career Truck Series win at this track last year. I think Carson Nosebar could be a stand-up performer. He's been one of the better Chevy drivers all season long so far, and I do think that Carson Nosebar will be a threat or contender to maybe get the win. Not the win, but at least a good run this weekend at Richmond Raceway. And finally, let's talk about the 99 car for Trackhouse Racing. This, of course, will be driven by Daniel Suarez. Daniel Suarez had a big weekend as he raced in the Brazil race, the NASCAR Brazil Series race in Interlagos, and went to victory lane. And he's the first driver, I think, in a season ever to win in 3 different countries, or 3 different series from 3 different countries, which is extremely impressive. We are expecting he's going to sign a multi-year contract extension to stay behind the wheel of the 99 car. He'll be looking for a fantastic and great run this weekend at Richmond. So, that is your entry list for the 2024 Cookout 400 at Richmond. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so if I win a video, thus go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support on Patreon as well. Let's go below that and comment your thoughts below on today's video. What are thoughts about the interest? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Tomorrow on the channel, more than likely, we'll have a NASCAR news video discussing news over the course of the last couple days. Then we're also going to have Truck Series race picks for Richmond as well. Thursday, we'll have Cup Series race picks for the Cookout 400 and the paint skin video for the Cookout 400 as well. Friday, most likely, we'll have a NASCAR news video dropping. Saturday, if the weather can hold off, because we got Tropical Storm Debbie hitting the area right now, so that could affect the outcome of the weekend with the weather. We'll have to keep an eye on that throughout the weekend. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.